What's up, guys? Before we jump right into this game, I just want to give a quick thank you to our sponsors for this Set 3 event, CardNexus, the easiest way of organizing and tracking your Riftbound collection, as well as other TCGs. They just launched their newest updates. They have a TCG Marketplace, they have a mobile app now, and that comes with a card scanner. You could go ahead, easily open the app. You head on over to the scanner, so just click the scanner here and then instantly scan your cards. As you see here, you could get the price for the card and then even have the value over time. As you see, CardNexus has gone up quite a little bit since the release or anticipated release of Set 3, and then more importantly, you could go ahead and directly list them for sale. So first you add them to your inventory, and then it asks you to sell these cards, and you could go ahead and hit yes. So directly sell them on the CardNexus TCG Marketplace. And it pretty much, once you fill out all the information on your account, you could just list them for sale, confirm, and just like that, it is now able to be bought from people around the world. So you can set your shipping and everything like that nice and easy. They make it super simple and straightforward. And if you're looking to buy some cards off that CardNexus Marketplace, go ahead and use the promo code on the screen to get $5 off your first order of $15 or more. And guys, last but not least, CardNexus is doing an awesome giveaway, Unleashed booster box giveaway. Go ahead and scan the QR code on the screen or use the link in the video description / the pinned comment to be automatically entered into the giveaway.
I'm excited. I'm very, very excited. We got two amazing players headed up here. We got SunBurstUnicorn and Takolandia, two players unfortunately, I do not recognize off the top of my head. If they have played before, I really do. I enjoy it. And again, when we take a look at both these legends and both these decks, I'm going to be very interested. For Pride Stalker, Rengar, again, playing multiple units really buffs up a lot of this, and you can really I want to say inflate the might of a single unit very, very quickly.
Yeah, you bring up a really good point. Rengar is not limited to the first unit you actually deploy out. It's every single unit you play. You give any unit on the board, not just the unit that was just played, any unit on the battlefield base, anywhere on the current board, you can give them a +1. So things can get a little bit out of hand. Some players have kind of gone more so a bit of a swarm style Rengar, where you kind of put out a bunch of little guys, and with enough little guys, you end up building a big fat unit to go in on the offense. So we'll see what type of Rengar this is indeed. We saw a little bit of Lillia. What do you remember about her last week? Or what? I can't remember if it was you or me casting that one.
It wasn't me. I believe that was the third and fourth round where we saw Lillia, but a lot of people have placed, I believe, Lillia around the B tier. I want to say B and A tier is where they placed it. A lot of the acceleration plus the token drop yields a very, I want to say, stable board. And then you include the fact that you're getting a 3 might drop token every so often, it can be pretty good. However, in early play, I don't know if this was the call, an early play of the Lillia, because I don't know if you drew any units, losing that champion unit is actually pretty dang rough, I think.
I think so as well, right? A challenge, such an excellent play when your opponent's completely tapped out, because they try to make full use of the runes by bringing in their chosen champion, and that's a heck of a chosen champion, right? When you move, you bring out a sprite token alongside you, so just giving up a bit of a pouty portal to take down the more important Lillia, I think it was a fine play just to keep a bit of more tempo. But Lillia is a deck that doesn't necessarily ever lose too much tempo, because she's able to deploy out these sprites that come in at the ready each and every turn. Lillia just has like an infinite amount of supply of units. It's just a little bit expensive because their legend ability, it costs 4 originally, but as long as you pay more or play more sprite tokens, it gets a little cheaper. So she always has some units available.
Yeah, it's always available, but again, power is kind of cut in half. One of the big things about it is you're really hoping to generate more tokens, right? Like, I feel like you were supposed to have 3 or 4 out and available. So at the current moment, I think for SunBurstUnicorn, you don't have to worry about the flood of sprites just yet. It might be coming a little bit later, but you're in a good position to actually whittle this down quite a bit, which we're seeing here right now with the Rengar coming out. Trophy Hunter obviously has the ambush tactic. You are able to move as a reaction into a battlefield with an easy play, basically on the opponent's turn, which snuffs out anything that they were hoping to set up for Takolandia, and already this is looking a little bit dire in terms of board strength. You can see a gear on the back end, but Takolandia has to continuously use a turn just to set up right now.
Right, tricky situation because these guys are a little bit big. Speaking of Rengar there, did you see the little promo card, the Chinese exclusive that they just revealed for the Nexus Night Unleashed promos?
Oh, I have not. Oh wait, I think I did. It crossed my. Oh, I think I did. I don't remember off the top
It
of my
was
head,
the
though,
little
now.
pretty kitty skin from League of Legends. They gave it to Rengar.
You got me
and put
looking
on
it
a
up
card.
now. You got me looking it up. I gotta take like half a moment to go look this up. Dang it.
Yeah, guys, for those at home that haven't seen it, it is hilarious. It is the set 2 Rengar, the one with assault and reaction speed, but it's in a whole different limelight with that little pretty kitty skin. I wish it wasn't a Chinese exclusive, but it is what it is, as we see our Rengar player holding up to 4 points, so spreading the margins between these two players. And let's see what he has to do with the 6 runes on this turn, because he can't directly play a unit unless he has another one of these Rengar. Let me double check his full name, Trophy Hunter, because Trophy Hunter technically works a little bit like Deadbloom Predator, where you could play it even though you don't have units on that battlefield. But I don't know if a lot of Rengars are running more than one of their chosen champion, but I wouldn't put it past it because it's a really good card, honestly.
It is, but there are also lower cost units with just enough might, I think,
Right.
is what you're kind of thinking. This one's a really good one just to kind of slam home a 6 might and just take over a battlefield, especially on Orin's Forge, where you kind of deny Takolandia from buffing up the units, so you force a Star Spring instead, which isn't bad, don't get me wrong, but it's still, I don't think for the cost, and as you mentioned, kind of a token dropper or a swarm tactic, I would say you want lower, and I'll be honest. I did peek a little bit just now into Sunburst deck list. I just wanted to take a look at it. It is a little bit on the lower end. Still a frightening amount of might behind it.
Okay. Maybe trying to go a bit off the game plan we mentioned earlier is keeping it lower to the curve. That way you're able to get that Rengar Legend ability a bit more often than what you would imagine. Retreats the Trophy Hunter for now. Readies it a little bit of pseudo ganking over to the other battlefield to take down the little sprite, and up and away Rengar goes on that point department. 5-2 is a big difference, and Rengar looking like he's going to run away with this game number 1. Unless Lillia can kind of slow him down, but so far so good for our Rengar player.
Yeah, I think when it comes to blue-green in this situation, I don't know how much like full removal you're using a lot of the time. I think it's still buffing or like negating of might. So this is Takolandia just kind of floating from battlefield to battlefield. At this point, you are in stall tactic mode. You know that there's going to be some removal on the other side, but the Watcher is easily going to be a big turnaround unless there's an answer, and it looks like a 2-1 toss. And the thrill of the hunt, they held it for so long. Good reaction over. Swap into a different battlefield. The Sprite Mother is now in a worse favor. I believe the might difference, though, the -3 is still in play. So it's an even trade out, I think, a 3 for 3.
Oh, well, keep in mind how Thrill the Hunt works is that you banish the card, so it kind of gets completely reset, which makes that signature spell completely busted in a lot of people's eyes because it removes it from the battlefield entirely. So it's like if you put it to the trash, everything kind of resets, but then it comes back with its full potential and comes in with that ambush ability of going in on an opponent's battlefield, even though you don't control any units. So just as we saw, that Thrill the Hunt effectively working like the old Ride the Wind, where you conquer on your opponent's turn, you go up to 6, and now you hold on your turn, go up to 7. So Orbital, one more conquer, and Rengar just stole this game from Lillia.
Yeah, but instead of holding, you're instead trying to swap because you already conquered 1. You're going to try and conquer 2, and you're putting yourself up to 7 right now. Because you have played a unit, technically, I like that call. You're up at 7. You're worried about the hidden right now. And with the showdown, you do still have priority for the moment. So you are going to pay 3. What else in the deck could be here? Is it just an amp up?
Let's see, because he did a secondary through the hunt to move that Rengar Trophy Hunter one more time on the other side, but another
Oh,
brother from another mother, or the same one
yep,
essentially.
there it is.
Rengar pouncing onto that battlefield and taking it down in a swift fashion. That was impressive. Rengar looking so powerful with that signature spell.
From the ambush, and so you want to keep I want to see keep pace. Now, at the same time, I don't know if Sunburst is going to get that much freedom to eliminate a Lillia champion that early on. Remember, it was turn 1 where you saw Takolandia maybe get a little bit, I don't want to say desperate, but maybe a little bit too proud and allowed the Lillia to go down early. So you can already see Takolandia saying, I'm not going to let that happen again. Instead, plays the Sprite Fountain, picks up an early token, and grabs that first Emperor's Dais.
You know, it's not every day you see 2 points on your opening turn, but Lillia having an ability to ready your units as soon as they come down with that gear there, conquers on that same turn. And of course, Arena's Greatest coming in as the second battlefield selection for Lillia, which makes sense because she is a bit more an aggressive deck. Let's see if she could go a little bit too fast for the other aggressive deck, Rengar, to handle, because this is a battlefield we don't see too often from our Rengar player. Are you familiar with it, Orbital? I believe Emperor's Dais or Dios.
Yeah, so this one, I'm not too familiar. Off the top of my head, I know it came in the Spirit Forge, but I don't know. I mean, it's usually run in Azir decks, right? So it makes sense with the Sand Soldier, but it is surprising to see it come out as a second battlefield. I feel like there are more in there, but if you're trying to build out, like, where does the strength come from? Because obviously you can see Takolandia, like, I had the arena set. I'm ready for the Emperor's Dais instead, obviously.
You know, to me, it almost seems like he wants to take advantage of that trophy hunter ability where you can kind of, instead of, if you don't have to rely on things like a first mate to move them from battlefield to battlefield, instead use that battlefield ability to bring the trophy hunter back to hand, and then you ambush onto the other battlefield. I could almost see it, but I don't know if he's going to have enough time to do that, because right now he doesn't even have enough energy, or he technically has just enough energy to develop out a trophy hunter, but that might be a little too slow. This is a double conquer hold for Lillia. Mind you, they're temporary, so they won't actually get the hold, but 4-1 is a big disparity so far.
Yeah, and you can see Sunburst actually going into that form. Drops a Poro plus a Nidalee. And because of that extra little might, you are put at 4, so you keep both sides. Ambush is big. You draw 1 extra in the back, but Sunburst barely staving off a double conquer some more. There's a temporary, and Lillia is back to neutral. Dead draw, and, well, not dead draw, but we'll see exactly what they lay out. Field's their oyster.
Yeah, let's see with 5. You
Full
definitely
tap
have
of
some
5.
options available to you. And let's see, they're tapping all 5. We've seen things like Sprite Call, Sprite Mother, but these units on that Emperor's Dios a little bit higher than the 3 might from these Sprite tokens coming down. I don't know exactly if he's going to be able to take away that battlefield, but keep in mind you are ahead on point tempo, so you don't necessarily have to take it away as long as you stay ahead. So if you just kind of play out another Sprite token, continue on the conquer over conquer game plan, you go to 5, and then every conquer after that inching you that much closer to winning this game number 2. And you know, Orbital, just like we saw last week, these games are going really fast, aren't they?
Yeah, I mean, I hated Ezreal personally. I played against it once in a local, and I said never again. I hated the uninteractiveness. It felt very much like they were playing their own game. I love the back and forth, and when you play back and forth, it definitely feels much faster. Not only that, as we said before, players understanding what their cards do, what they're looking for, what they aim for. It is going faster. Both those in combination, already moving at a breakneck pace, 100%.
Right, you know, an interesting decision there for the Lillia player. As we were saying, they do have the option to go ahead and conquer and keep scoring, but instead using that Sprite Burst to, more importantly, take down and slow down the game plan from Rengar in general, because you traded 1 for 1, so your 2 Sprite tokens for your Pouty Poro and your Nidalee, as you said, now leaving behind just the single unit on board. But Rengar doesn't really have too much troubles getting onto the battlefields as we saw before with that Trophy Hunter. Oh, and he's actually using the battlefield ability now. Interesting.
Yeah, I I will say I want to double check that because I think the Poro held there, so I don't know if that counts as a conquer. I know they say it technically does, but I thought it only worked on the first conquer. So if it works like that, that helps even more that you are able to retreat, drop the token down, and you're very happy about that. Still holding, still in control.
Yeah, I believe it's after the fact, right? So you conquer, you score, and then you
Yeah.
could pay the one, get the Pouty
You
Poro.
can still do
And
that
it
basically
makes good sense
before.
here
Okay.
because you do have cards like
Yeah.
the Legion Noxus Hopeful to go ahead and get that off. So just developing a nice back line. And now another gear. Let me take a look at this one because I know what it does. I don't remember what it's called. The Sprite Fountain. So just go ahead and develop out another Sprite token. Make that 2 Sprite tokens with your Legend ability. And let me pull it up here for the folks at home because when I hover on TCGA, it never hovers permanently. It's so annoying sometimes.
Yeah, whenever they play a card, it drops it away from our viewpoint. It's kind of hard.
But yeah, Sprite Fountain for those at home. When you play this, play a ready Sprite unit token temporary to your base, and then this gear itself has temporary as well, but repeat this gear's play effect when it dies. So essentially 2 Sprite tokens are coming out from this one gear, one on the play and then one on the death nail trigger. But here we go, Lillia just non-stop pressure turn after turn, already up to 6 points. And I think this was an accelerated chosen champion, or am I thinking of the other one?
No, you are correct. Lillia Faefon is an accelerate cost, and you can see it's because Takolandia is saying this is the time to push. You're sitting on 6. You are forcing an exchange out of Sunburst right now. You are saying, hey, if you can't deal with these battlefields, you are going to lose at this time. Now, granted, Sunburst does have 2 in the back lines, Pouty Poro plus the Noxus Hopeful, which should be enough to capture at least over the Sprite token over on the Emperors. But it is Takolandia kind of forcing Sunburst to react, whereas Sunburst has been relatively quiet this game around.
He really has. He hasn't even developed out that chosen champion that did so much work the previous turn. And
There
speaking of the tiger, here he comes. Tiger, the lion, right? Or the liger?
It's more of a tiger, I think. Yeah,
Right.
I would say tiger.
Tiger. He just seems to have that mane sometimes. But yeah, the tiger coming down to Arena's Greatest, and a card we haven't necessarily seen all series long, a hidden card, which I'm not too familiar if I'm being honest. Smokes and Mirrors. Okay, hidden, and then choose a unit you control and another unit you control at a different location. If at least one of them has temporary, move each. So kind of swap around like Tide Turner, but draw 1. So a pseudo Tide Turner plus a draw 1. Okay, interesting.
Yeah. In combination with the Lillia, you're able to drop another Sprite token, if I'm not mistaken, because when I move from a location, granted, I don't know if you're... no, you are moving, so it's another Sprite token drop as well. I don't think it was enough to take over the Rengar, though, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, I see what you're saying. With the Faefon is super synergistic, right? Because you get to go ahead and play out another Sprite token every move. But it looks like the tide is slightly turning in the favor of our Rengar player here. Double battlefield control, and these are permanent units.
A good defy. Yes. That's what we like. Sorry, it happened last game, if we remember. You know, that's how the Lillia went out last time, is because of that challenge. Really nice job by Takolandia to make sure they had the defy in hand just in case.
And he did that. He did have the defy indeed. Now he wants to go ahead and try to capitalize on the simple fact that Rengar is effectively all tapped out. There's not much he can do with a single rune available. So trying to do a good game plan here. Do you want to go ahead and take out the bigger unit in that trophy hunter, or just more units? I guess he's going for the right hand battlefield. I wouldn't blame him to go after the bigger unit with 2 units.
Yep.
But thinking about something else, I wonder if he has a game plan to take out both of these battlefields, because it seems tricky to do so.
Yeah, he'll be able to draw another Sprite token, but it's not readied, right? So you would move up if there's no response to 7. Takolandia would be 1 point away from winning here. And are you playing the whole game then?
It looks to be the case, right? Lillia saying all I have to do is gain one more point, essentially just one more hold, and I will be victorious. But keep in mind, we saw how easily Rengar, especially with the Trophy Hunter already online, was at getting their units to the other side of the battlefield. So if they do
Yeah.
something similar as we saw in that game one, you kind of recall it back to base, play out a first mate, and then move on over to the other battlefield. But potentially this hidden card might have something else to say about that.
Yeah, and so we've seen a little bit of the movement play, but I don't think Takolandia would actually want to move. Instead, it's a more of a contest space. It was that a recall?
I think it's a bit of a take back, so
I think
nothing
it took it back.
happened. A
Yeah,
bit of a
okay.
rewind.
I wanted to make sure that I wasn't missing something again. We saw the multi-points go down, and plus, I've worked with you enough. You know I miss way too much in these.
Especially when we have the hidden cards revealed, but we're doing good so far. It looks, we don't know if it's the same hidden card or not, but it is a hidden card nonetheless. So let's see if that's enough. I mean, from what we saw before, we saw the smokes and mirrors. Those are on Lillia decks now. We do have mind to consider, so things like consult the past just to draw two. But I'm trying to think, what are potential cards to perhaps push this Rengar back? The first thing that comes to mind, Janna? Anyone down for a Janna in a Lillia deck to make sure you stay in hold potentially? Let's see.
Don't Lilias also run Sprite Call? I mean, it's a general
True.
sprite development in there, and so if you're looking to hold and just bring up more might, I think that one works the best.
And
Like Janna, obviously, Janna, do not get me wrong, but in a secondary sense, the Sprite Call would be one of the easier ones to draw out here. It's just a simple 3. It's not great, but it is a simple extra 3 in there to hold. But instead of the first mate, we're looking at an Inferna. Inferna bringing in an Assault +2. You do have Ambush, but there's the first mate that you were talking about. Onto a battlefield? Oh, are they looking for a huge jump?
interesting.
Oh, they're
Wait.
testing the waters. I love this call. They're testing to see what the hidden is first before, I think, sending everything in. I think that's a good call.
It has to be. The only caveat being you have to have another first mate in hand, and you were absolutely right. It was indeed a Sprite Call. Keep in mind the massive foresight triggers every time it actually you have to defend alone. So actually you were defending alone because that was a hidden card. So Faithon is currently at 4. The Sprite token adds a collective total of 7 might. So defending with 7 might currently is what Lillia has to hold with. And rewinding back a little bit, saying they'll rather use a discipline, but they revealed a bit of their trump card, I want to say.
Yeah, they did. They realized the same thing that you were saying. If they dropped the Sprite, they would have lost the +1 anyway, so they instead wanted a singular might unit. But again, information is granted. Now, 3 might is available right now, but the showdown is currently occurring, right? That's the big deal that we need to talk about, and because of that, it is Inferno. That is a massive unit drop that unfortunately Sunburst just can't really compete with. And here we go. There is going to be that swap out once more. Another first mate like you called, but it's a 7 might only, and that is going to be resolved with an on guard. And so I don't think the Rengar has anything to play. I think Takolandia has successfully defended with this Lillia unit over on the Emperor's Dios.
I'm right there with you. Not only he didn't even need the on guard, if we're being honest. The massive foresight is every single time you defend alone, which Lillia Faithon was defending alone one more time. So an additional +2, and then it was an effective +4 from the discipline from the on guard. Lillia getting the job done to get us into that game number 3.
To offer the ability to ambush back and forth. Same with Lillia, being able to hold, being able to draw, and all that stuff. And now in the game 3, this is where it kind of matters, because guess what is drawn last? It's Windswept Hillock. Remember, for Sunburst, one of the big things is that ganking tool. Having to use the first mate, that's off the table. If you can hold on your own battlefield, you can essentially gank for free. You don't have to pay that energy cost anymore for the first mate, and you have a better chance at wiping out Lilia's smaller units.
Right, Rengar capitalizes so well on having those big units and then having them even increase for every other unit you play thanks to that legend ability. So every unit you can send on over from that ganking battlefield is sure to be enough to go ahead and try to conquer. But now thinking on the other side of the board, that Dust Rose Lab is such a fantastic battlefield to end off this best of 3 series for Lillia,
Yep.
because you don't have to worry about the downside of having temporary units. You actually turn that downside into a bit of the upside. For those that don't know, at the beginning step, you can go ahead and kill a unit here to draw a card, right? So temporary is at the beginning phase, but because they both go on the chain at the same time, you can order them. So before the trigger happens for the sprite token temporary, you can instead have the Dust Rose Lab trigger and then sacrifice your sprite token to inevitably to of course draw an additional card that turn.
I feel like both decks have very specifically drawn their best battlefield, right? Like these both have a massive influence on how the game is played and how well you can play this early side. Talking about the development though, we knew it. Immediate coverage of Windswept by the Gem Jammer over there. Granted, it's a double ganking. I don't know if that really gives you anything, but you like to see it for Sunburst. Early 1 point with a hidden behind, and so already setting up a little bit of a territorial battle in there.
Right, you know, I am trying to think ahead. What can this hidden card be? Was Inferno a hidden card, or am I going crazy? Let me pull it up here.
Oh, I do not know that. That was
No, it wasn't.
no,
It wasn't.
that
I am
was,
indeed
no,
crazy.
that was ganking, or not ganking. That was an ambush. That was an ambush card.
There's another card that has ambush that has hidden, but I think I'm thinking of a pike card potentially. But we see the sprite burst play out 2 ready sprite tokens, so incoming 6 total damage onto the Windswept Hillop. Keep in mind though, there's 3 runes at the ready. That's gonna be a Nidalee for 3. Wait, what am I miss? Oh, 3, of course. Nidalee's 4 might, but 3 power. Impressive.
It's a 3-1. It's crazy output. You add on top the extra, and then there's a swap. Mischievous Mirai. You were wondering what it was? It's an extra deal 2 at the end. I don't know if you needed that, but maybe it's to ensure that you are trying to keep Gem Jammer, but I don't know if you had to reveal that. I think... Oh, no, you did. You did, because there would have been some other issues back there. So, yeah, you are able to hold and overpower the 6.
Yeah, it was just enough. I think for 6, I think they could have taken out 2 units there, because wasn't it 6 to 8? 4, 5, 6, 7, 8.
It was, because it only dealt damage. It didn't take away the might, correct?
Yeah, exactly. So I think one of those 2 might units should be in the trash currently, because it was 6 to 6, unless we're missing something, because Nidalee's ability doesn't have anything to do with might reduction.
Yeah, we have seen some players, you're still trying to figure out exactly how the wording goes. Obviously, a lot of clarifications recently came out.
And thank you, chat. Of course, these newer cards are getting the best of us sometimes. The Rengar ability, because you played 2 cards in that turn, one being played for the hidden, and then one being played from the Nidalee. So Nidalee was at 6 total might. These guys not putting counters on, but of course, every single time you play a unit.
I should have seen that, man. I'm telling you, I miss too much right now.
No, it's a bit of a trickier one, but it makes so much sense. So it was honestly 10 total might versus the 6. So just doing enough might to just take down the single Nidalee. And like we mentioned, the Windswept Hillock will be a key component to go ahead and try to inch their way to victory that much closer for Rengar. So just go ahead, rendezvous over to the other battlefield. 3 points to 0 is exactly where you want to be as our Rengar legend representative.
I like it. You immediately push the unseen in, and this is the 3rd Rengar unit that we've seen so far of this Rengar deck. You were wondering if the Rengars were in. It looks like Sunburst is actually running all 3. Very, very utility heavy, which I really like. Ezreal coming out for Takolandia, being able to have that extra card draw in there is going to try, or no, this is dashing actually, movement based. Instead, moving around the battlefield, doing their best in that regard.
Right, this is Ezreal we don't see too often, but is actually decently powerful. When you move, you could go ahead. It doesn't do combat damage, which is the one downside to it. But when you do go ahead and try to attack, you do your might to a unit on a battlefield, or it might be anywhere. Let me double check. When I attack, oh, let me pull it up on the side. It never lets me hover.
You're trying. I give you credit. You're trying.
Right, it's always when they start moving cards, you can never truly hover, which is annoying. They should maybe edit that, but I don't think they were truly trying to tech TCGA for like spectator mode. But here it is,
No.
chat. For those that aren't familiar, when I attack or defend, deal damage equal to my might to an enemy unit here. And you can move it to your base, so kind of a bit of protection strategy with just a single mind rune recycled. So isn't able to go ahead and make full use of the dashing ability just yet, but something to be very mindful of going forward for the Rengar player, as it's still a little bit early to mid game so far.
I think for Sunburst, you're also preparing something a little bit different. Remember, in game one, I should say, you were much more focused on leaving some of the battlefields open and then applying pressure in. Granted, you're a little bit low on rune. You'll be sitting with 5 at the end of it, but no major ambushes. So at the current moment, so Takolandia is able to develop that Lillia a little bit more as well, bring out an extra sprite. Granted, the sprite ain't going to be doing too much in the back line, and so you're just chilling. Multiple sprites, you are going to challenge. This is the other side that we are kind of wondering. An easy grab from that Gem Jammer, who the poor 2 mites done its job. Early game was controlled by Sunburst because of this little dude in a mech.
Yeah, kind of bringing that tempo back in your favor, but you do now have to deal with the current might, or the current board pressure played out from Rengar currently, and he is at that 5 total energy, so something like the Trophy Hunter will be online if he chooses to do so. And that's a Lillia completely tapped out. You don't have to worry about the on guards we saw before. You don't have to worry about the disciplines we saw before. It's rather straightforward. You can send in the Unseen over to either of these battlefields, and then Rengar Trophy Hunter, double Rengar, double the problem, should be able to conquer both of these battlefields, I want to say.
Yeah, I mean, that's as clean as it gets. That feels reminiscent of game 1 once more, where the Lillia got dropped early. It kind of negated a lot of what Takolandia wanted to do and what they wanted to develop in between. So I think for Takolandia, now you're kind of applying that pressure of, I'm really hoping I can keep control over Duskrow's lab to continue the card draw feature, right? That's going to be your main source of drawing cards, being able to kind of push the envelope with what you can get away with. For Sunburst, though, feels great. You're feeling pretty dang happy about the current state of things.
Yeah, I will say, thinking about it a little further ahead, just the same position Lillia finds herself in, being completely tapped out. If you go ahead and play that Trophy Hunter, now you're going to be the one completely tapped out, perhaps allowing Lillia to get a bit of an upper hand one more time. Things like a Sprite Burst, develop out 2 Sprite tokens ready, is technically enough to take down a Trophy Hunter, but if you send in 2 that way, you know, he still did it anyway, so up to 5 points. So let's see if Lillia had a game plan all along. He knew that he was a bit overextended, a bit exposed to something like a double conquer, but does he have the cards in hand? Because he definitely has plenty of runes to work with this turn, and with the dashing online, something like an on guard on the dashing could take down without even doing anything before combat the Unseen. And then we'll see what can maybe take down this Trophy Hunter. As we said, I believe it was the Sprite Burst. He could at least trade 6 for 6 on that side.
I mean, it's available at the same time. I don't know if Takolandia has the right cards for it. We've seen a lot of the denial tools, right? The Defy was a big one that you're always holding on to. Granted, the Defy can't be used anymore, or will be used but for a different reason. You're not saving the Lillia. It's a tap of 3, so you have something available. Nope. Takolandia is like, I tapped it, said no thank you, I don't want to do that, I'm going to wait. 8 runes is a lot, but I don't think we've seen a lot of straight up spell damage. It's a lot of token generation and then swarming in there, and I don't know if Takolandia has the right spells for it.
Right, we'll see. You know, speaking of spells, Chad's bringing up an excellent point. We haven't seen any kill spells coming out from Lillia because they do have access to one of the better kill spells in the current format. And it is Singularity, 6 cost, take down 2 units from your opponent's side. Does feel pretty impactful in this exact scenario, but doesn't look to have those pieces online. Goes ahead with the Sprite Call. Goes ahead and plays out a Sprite token as he does before, so has the ability to use the legend ability to get another ready Sprite token, but Stupefy before doing so. Maybe thinking about trading 1 for 1, 3 to 3, because we didn't see the Stupefy target. He must have said it on the voice chat there.
Yeah, maybe we ask them in the future, like, "Guy, can you just draw the arrows? Like at least one of them, please. Give us an arrow so we know what's going on." And because as observers and as viewers, we like to know. We like to have the clarity. Normally, if it's a top-down, we're watching. The fingers get pointed at different
Right.
cards and all that stuff. We don't have that here. But I had mentioned that earlier. This Lillia deck feels very much instead of any sort of removal. It is very much just like, can I generate enough tokens? Which is why watching this Lillia hurts me a little bit more each time, right? The Lillia getting removed so early on always feels like a benefit, which is why I think Sunburst was so willing to tap out for full removal in that sense. You are going to lose not your chosen champion, but just the 4-cost Rengar, the acceleration, the extra power, which I don't think you're too upset about. I think you're okay in this sense. It could be a multi-might swing, though, here with the sprites as well. And you called it earlier. This is a full good board wipe. Double Rengar's gone.
It was, and I think it's a worthy investment to go ahead and just take down the trophy hunter while you can to make sure no kind of ambush shenanigans are available on your opponent's turn. So this was a good play, just kinda doing the best you can, making sure you capitalize on the fact that your opponent's tapped out so they don't have any tricks up their sleeves. But now, just like we see this back and forth going down, Lillia with just a single rune available. But keep in mind, guys, dashing reads when you attack and defend. So it makes things very interesting, especially if you can react with something like an on guard before that attack and defend. I believe that's how it would work. You would apply the might increase, and then the dashing ability would do the double damage, or not double damage, but increase might damage onto your opponent's side. And that's not even with the consideration of the hidden card that might just be something like the smoke and mirrors, or probably more impactfully the sprite call we saw previously.
Yeah. For right now, we're just watching kind of this play out. Takolandia really trying to hold on to that windswept hillock, but leaving open the Dusk Rose.
Yeah, and just like we saw
I'm
in
trying
that
to
game
think. I'm
too.
trying to think right now. Plus, like, I'm wondering what Sunburst currently has in hand, because you had to know that the Rengars were going to get deleted, right? You had to know that. And so I wonder what other units you have available to kind of play out the battlefield.
Yeah, he had to have some kind of idea that he probably wasn't going to be sticking around with both of those Tigers too much longer. So trying to think of one
Yeah,
step ahead. He is ahead on points by quite a bit, right? 3-6. Is
true.
feeling in a decently comfortable position. So not sweating just yet. But if he doesn't kind of develop out anything greater here, he's always at a risk of these ready sprite tokens looking straight at that other battlefield and try to take it away from him, right? Because just 4 defending might is not really all that much. But okay, this gets a little bit more interesting. A hidden
Ooh.
card, and if you leave enough runes available, Lillia is always guessing what is in the hand. What ambush potential can Rengar go ahead and establish out? But first things first, a nice little massive
Ooh.
foresight to start this turn off.
Yeah, and then the turn on the sprite call. Yeah, I really do think Takolandia actually opted out of any damage or removal. You're really playing off of just basic token draw and just trying to swarm with the threes. I don't have chat pulled up, but I'm guessing they're wondering why the singularity isn't in there, so I could agree with that, if that makes sense. But it's just it is kind of rough. So a lot of the weight is right now on Takolandia, as you recognize if it's a hold or hold battle, you're not gonna really win that out. You need to go on the aggressive. Here comes the ganking. Question though, is Taco willing to also push the Ezreal in and risk? Or do you just send to try and remove one unit for the moment?
No, I think for right now, this is a fantastic play for Lillia. Keep in mind, the massive foresight is online, so you want to only send in your
Oh,
units one at
true.
a time. So I love the breakpoint currently for the sprite token. Not only did it receive the +1, but it's technically 4-4. 2 might on both of
Yeah,
the Rengar side and 4 might on your side. So he's saying, reveal your hidden card, play your ambush card,
there it
because I
is.
have 2 more units left that can go ahead and contest this battlefield if I need them.
Yeah, but here's the thing. So Pocket Cub also gets one from the Rengar. You are going to delete Gem Jammer as well as Mischievous. So now you're left with a 4-4. And now you swing again. It's going to be another removal here. Well played by Takolandia. You called it out. I hate not remembering that one, Mask of Foresight. I literally run it in one of my other decks, and I keep forgetting that it works like this.
Right,
And
right. It's a good card.
here comes the spell. Here comes the spell. So Sunburst recognizing that something needs to happen. Well played, other unit side.
I
Oh,
love
he's
this.
aggressing. I like this call. Ezreal now in trouble.
Brilliant play, saying, you know what, I'm gonna go ahead and attack you before the Massive Foresight gets any value, but realizing Pocket Club doesn't have the ambush the same way that Trophy Hunter has. You actually can't play it on a battlefield that you don't have any units that you control currently, so having to pivot from that side and saying, wait a minute, it's still actually 3-4 now because you lost the buff. Actually, no, you played the unit again, so still 4-4 currently. Actually, It's a bit of a rewind. He's not going to be playing out the Thrill of the Hunt, it looks like.
He's allowed. I think he had the same thought as us. I can ambush. Nope, not allowed. Sorry. It's just so Takolandia, good guy Takolandia. I think allowing that rewind and allowing that that redo for Sunburst here. Honestly, by the way, plus you built an amazing community for that specifically. Like, huge shout out to all the competitors. I don't think I've run into many so far that have been like Hardstone. Everyone's willing to understand that we're learning right now.
More so, yeah, absolutely. In these set 3 tournaments is a lot more forgiving. When we put a bit like $1,000 on the line,
yeah,
then these
that's
guys
a whole
get a
different
little
story.
bit more,
You know,
stingy, if you will. But I believe Rengar added 1 more energy. I thought they only had 3 energy last turn, but that might be me forgetting something. Either or, Pocket Club does trade 1 for 1, allowing the dash and a gank on over from the Winstep Haylock. And look at where we're finding ourselves in. Quite close in terms of points, 6-5, a whole lot better for Lillia than it was earlier when it was 6-3, I believe.
Yeah, I mean, that's a huge turnaround in just 2 turns, pretty much. But that's a huge dump right now. Sunburst might have drawn what they want. They held on, and I've been waiting for this card. Another card that a lot of people said really needed to get banned, but it's played in such a defensive position that Takolandia is still allowed to play the game. Normally, a Brynher comes out and is the de facto shutdown in a double conquer, right? Like, you just can't play cards, you can't do anything. It's a might for might challenge, but this is played in a devastating moment where you just need a unit.
Yeah, not feeling in a great position, I will say so, because when you have to play a Thunder Song and you don't really get too much value from playing out that Thunder Song, you know it's not a bit of a desperate play, but something close to that. As we see, the dashing does hold, the Sprite token does push forward, so 7 points to 6, 1 more point away from locking this game number 3, which Rengar was firing on everything he had to start off this game. But somehow Lillia kept her composure throughout this game 3 and finding a bit of a comeback victory, I feel like.
I did not respect, I think, the movement with Foresight. I really don't think I did it enough justice here, and so I take back my words. Granted, there's 9 available 4 cards in hand. I think Sunburst can do a lot of work here. Eyes out right now. Foresight not going to work over on Windswept because of the Sprite token, because of the student over there. So it's just a straight up 3-2 unless there's movement behind. You are looking on to the Rose Lab side with Ezreal. Would be looking at a 4 might drop. So I think for Thunder Song alone, you could try and either clear Windswept or look to try and force a hidden out of Dusk Rose.
Here we go.
Okay.
There's 1 card that kind of gets him out of here. Ooh.
Oh no, it's the Blide. Oh, it was a good try. It was a good try. I appreciate that so much. You were trying to reactivate Storm, and you have another. You had the 3rd. It's another Defy. Are you kidding me? Double Defy at the end. That was it.
Unbelievable sequences of events, right? Double Thrill of the Hunt into the double Defy. Thunder Song won't get into the battlefield effect any bit, and that doesn't allow him to conquer any of these battlefields, and that is a guaranteed hold for our Lillia player. Well played. What a crazy matchup there at the end.
And I think it really does show the understanding on both ends that Thrill of the Hunt can be such a game changer in multiple scenarios, right? We've seen it used before to use the ambush tactic, moving from battlefield to battlefield with the Rengar. In this instance, it was going to be used to reactivate Thunder Song to become a brutal shellacking. In that way, pinning down the opponent and then
Hmm.
being able to force an extra movement out of there. It was going to be quite a bit. So.